From hips to heart, this is my belly dance journey. Hi, everyone. Soraya here, and I am very excited to bring to you my second episode of Rock Talk series. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your attention because today I'm going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite subjects. In fact, I love it so much, I even put these pretty earrings on because I always feel beautiful when I belly dance. Yes. So March 1st, 2025, guess what? I will be 54 years old. That means that for 54 years, belly dance techniques has been a part of my life. Can you believe that? And so what I'm going to be sharing with you is the various stages in my own life that belly dancing techniques or belly dance culturally, specifically in my story, has been such an important part of my life and really has shaped my view and my understanding of who I am and my own culture as well. Now, before I begin, I want you to take a moment, a little exercise here. Think about the first time you ever saw a dancer, a belly dancer specifically. Did you see someone performing on stage or at a restaurant, or was it a part of your cultural community? Like for me specifically. Or did you just see it online on YouTube? For some of us, that wasn't available that long ago. Maybe you just saw some fitness classes. So that's my first question. When and then where were you? When, how old were you and where? My third question should be actually, what were your thoughts? What was your opinion? How did you feel? What were some key takeaways? Because a lot of this really shapes how you approach belly dance for your own personal life. Now, some of you who are watching are highly skilled, highly trained dancers, and I always love hearing your story because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Especially if you teach belly dance, you know how many of your students come in and they have this kind of certain idea in their mind. So we're just going to explore today the beauty, the artistry of the Middle East, her movements, and I'm personally just going to share it through the lens of my story. I certainly would love to have a guest speaker come on and give the history of belly dance from a more intellectual perspective. But for today, we're just going to explore through my story how we can enjoy belly dance on many different levels with many different stages in your life. Okay, without further ado, allow me to begin with you, my belly dance journey, and how I have shimmied my way through life. All right. So as I shared in my first episode, I'm a military brat. When we moved from Lebanon to San Angelo, Texas, I was a baby, but I do remember having company at our house. I don't remember who she was, particularly in relationship to our family or friends, but all I knew was that a woman came to our house and her name was Zuzu. And Zuzu had gorgeous long hair. And she was from Lebanon. My mother and my father knew her. So there's 5 kids, 4 girls. And Zuzu had a captive audience with 4 doting girls watching her as she demonstrated for us a very beautiful, athletic, undulating floor pattern belly dance movement. It was captivating. I was mesmerized. I was hooked. So in my mind, my first absolute memory of any type of belly dance demonstration was with Zuzu. And Zuzu said to me and my sisters, "We are Lebanese. This is our dance." And she showed us some gorgeous, more undulating movements and more floor pattern movements because we were all sitting on the floor. And here's what I especially remember. I mimicked Zuzu. And I did the exact same thing athletically because it was a floor pattern back bend. And my sisters and everyone in the room clapped and said, so my nickname is CISO. And they said, "CISO, very good." So that experience right there set me off for success because in my mind, from that moment on, I must have been 3 or 4. I was still just a kid. I was a belly dancer. I was a belly dancer. And so as I journeyed through life with my sisters, especially having Zuzu as this beautiful demonstration, because keep in mind, my mom did not belly dance. That was not something that she did. So that's the other subject I want to talk about. Many of you can relate because maybe if you're like me, Middle Eastern, belly dancing is something that women do for femininity amongst girls, but you don't want your children to grow up to be dancers of Raqs Sharki necessarily. You would rather they be doctors. You would rather they be lawyers. You would rather they be something in the field of education or something with a higher degree. You usually don't do anything less than a bachelor's degree, preferably a master's or a PhD. Okay, so that'll be a fun addition that I'll explain to you a little bit later. So for me, that was my first introduction. But I knew that it was something that was for me and my sisters to enjoy. It was not something that you would necessarily share with anyone else. And so certainly we would play the Arabic music in our house and we would continue for many, many years to mimic Zuzu. And the other thing I should tell you is my mom always had our hair cut short, a pixie cut or a Dorothy Hamill haircut. And mostly, again, for girls, she just needed to keep life simple. And, to have to deal with long hair was just an extra thing. She was very clean, very orderly, always made sure we looked clean. So the fact that Zuzu did have long hair, by the way, was fascinating for me, I'll admit. And as you can see, I do have longer hair. And bless my mom, it wasn't until she passed away that I really started to grow it because she had me convinced that I looked better with shorter hair. Fun fact. So my sisters and I, we continued to journey in the living room and just really as we cooked or anytime we would even dance to pop music, anything that was on the radio, we would still throw in the more Arabic serpentine movements, which actually worked in the 80s, by the way. I don't know, just kind of anything could go in the 80s. Um, so that was really my very, very first introduction. So for you, I'm wondering what your first introduction was. For me, obviously incredibly positive, and it was at a very, very young age. And it was within a cultural environment. And it felt very safe. I felt beautiful. I felt feminine. I felt athletic. So those were my first initial key takeaways as a young girl. As I started to get older and I really started to struggle with body image issues, I started to deal a little bit with some bulimia, probably around 16 years old. Just was really hard on myself, really just unnecessarily hard on myself. My mom always would tell me how beautiful I am. I had a gorgeous figure. I looked like Sophia Loren. She always had such positive words of affirmation, but it was also really belly dancing as a part of my culture that made me feel beautiful as well. So it was a part of my healing because I did struggle with body image issues. And so with my sisters, we were all very voluptuous and had gorgeous figures. And it just continued to make me feel beautiful. Now, by this time, we were in California. So I probably was about 8 or 9 when I was in California. And my mom started working for the Defense Language Institute in Monterey. She was teaching Arabic. My father was on the cusp of retirement from his 23 years in the Navy. We were very settled into on the Monterey Peninsula. We had a great community and we became very, very active in the Arabic American Club. My mother was the first female president of the Arabic Club. So for me, culturally speaking, I had a mother, a woman who was feminine, beautiful, graceful, intelligent, strong, wise, kind, caring, soulful as my role model. So I consider myself incredibly blessed, incredibly fortunate to have had that type of role modeling. So really, belly dancing was maybe a little bit of an alter ego in a way. We were very active, as I said, in the Arabic American culture clubs, particularly. And our job in Monterey Peninsula back then was to really show the community what the Arabic people, what our food is, what we're like. So it really was an important part at a young age for me to continue to share exactly where I am, what the RaqiSa brand is. And if anyone's watching and you're part of the Monterey Arabic Club, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We had a food truck at the Monterey Jazz Festival. We were hand chopping the tabbouleh ourselves. We were making the hummus fresh ourselves. So at a very young age, I was very much involved in sharing. But whenever we would have the parties collectively gathering, every once in a while, it wasn't my mother, it was another president of the Arabic Club who would bring in a belly dancer. And so this was me. I just would watch. I would watch. I would. And here's the funny part is whenever a professional belly dancer would come in and they would come in and they would enter in with a veil, I remember thinking, just get to the hips. I wanted to watch. I loved drum solos. I couldn't wait for the drum solo because again, it felt like athletic. It felt sharp. It was the accents of the hip hits. So there's these staccato movements mixed with some undulating lyrical movements mixed with the layered shimmies. These are distinctive qualities in belly dance, which are so unique and different from any other dance formats. So that was me. I was that little girl just waiting and just watching and just thinking, wow, you're so beautiful. Like, forget the veil, just hit the hips. So again, I that was me. I was like, I'm Lebanese. This is my culture. And by the way, the Arabic Club wasn't just Lebanese. It was collectively. We were all representing the Middle East. I'm just speaking as, from my Lebanese perspective. But again, this is collective. We're in this together. We share and bring together the beauty of the RAQ by bringing music and art and just really so much excitement in the joy of movement in the Oriental dancing. So I just want to make sure I make that point clear. So yeah, so that was my youth. Okay, this is a time for me where it meant I felt beautiful, I felt feminine. It was very much a body loving dance. I was with my sisters. We laughed together. It just was a very positive experience for me. So, when I started college, as I shared in the first episode, I was pursuing the theater arts. So, at that point, I was pursuing my bachelor's degree in the theater arts, particularly in musical theater. I loved singing, dancing, and acting. And in all fairness, singing and acting were my forte. We were not able to afford dance classes per se. So really I started in college just taking dance classes. Otherwise, if I was performing in a musical, that was my crash course on dancing. The choreographer would teach me whatever I was able to learn. So sorry, if you're watching me on a podcast, it's funny when you can see a hair kind of go crazy and you want to fix it. Sorry, I'm back. Okay. So that was me starting off with my dancing. And believe it or not, because I was doing musical theater, I was interested in, more jazz, tap, not so much ballet, but anything that was a part of my musical theater experience. Because I was being told a lot, oh, you need to know how to tap dance. You should know how to, do basic jazz. So I needed to know just enough. So I didn't really have a lot of confidence in myself as a dancer because many of you probably were very fortunate. You've probably been taking dance since you were a little girl. Maybe not. Maybe you're like me. You were a late bloomer. And guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you do your job to prepare and prime your body so that you can bring your best, because a lot of it is your lengthening, your strengthening, and your character, your commitment, and confidence. Those, I call them the 3 C's: your character, commitment, confidence, to really get yourself to a level where you can dance. So in fact, it was not my strength at all. That I used to say to my sister Tanya, who's going to be another part of the story. I'm like, oh, I want to be a dancer. I want to get better. And I was just taking it in college. And she said, well, maybe if you just tell yourself you're a dancer. And I said, yeah, I'm going to tell myself I am a dancer. I am a dancer. So you should try it. It does work, actually. So for many years, and even to this day, we'll say, I am a dancer. So around that time, I was really excelling in performing and building up my resume with stage productions, and again, predominantly musical theater. And so my sister at that time was entering her law school. So we were near each other. And I had come back one summer, having spent an entire summer at a professional theater house in Michigan called the Barn Theater. And I was performing back to back musicals. And I felt after that summer, I was a dancer because it stretched and it grew me so much. And I really gained a lot of confidence in myself, and I was given a lot more opportunities. Um, so so I came home from that fantastic summer, really having given amazing opportunities. Meanwhile, my sister was taking belly dance classes with a woman in her home studio, and she was Egyptian, and she was teaching Raqs Sharki. Now, my sister is not a dancer, was not taking all the dance classes I was taking. So I walked in with a very big head. First of all, we're Lebanese and I know how to belly dance because I've been doing it my entire life. And I just got back from doing this incredible experience performing. And so I walked in with this overly large head and I started to take the class with my sister. And I did not realize the incredible technique or the breadth of movements that were a part of the Oriental dancing. I was humbled. I ate a nice, delicious piece of humble pie. And my sister, who is not a dancer, was amazing. She was amazing. She could just move so beautifully, so gracefully, and she had a variety of movements that she could layer, where I was really limited to the hip lifts, the hip drops, and the arms undulating, because every Middle Eastern girl is really good at hip lifts and hip drops. If you go to a wedding, you will notice it as well. And if you are Middle Eastern like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Can I get an amen? Because it's true. There's this kind of, serpentine movements, the hip lifts, hip drops, and shoulder shimmies, but then it kind of stops there. When you start introducing the varieties of layered movements, the vertical figure eights, the horizontal figure eights, the layered shimmies, undulations, the chest movements, Tanya could do all that. And so here's what happened. I got mildly jealous of my sister, which is not nice because this is by far the nicest sister out of all of my siblings. And if my other sisters are listening, you know it's true. She is. She's so nice. She's so sweet. She's so kind. So for me to have an ounce of jealousy was shame on me, number one. But number two, it was humbling. And I learned that I had a lot more to learn and a lot more to grow. And again, this particular sister, Tanya, she's so sweet. She just encouraged me. And so I went up to her and I said, Tanya, I don't know how to do this movement. She didn't really break it down. So in all fairness, the teacher's teaching style was a follow me method. She didn't necessarily break it down, at least when I was there. Maybe she was already at a level where she'd already done that and these students had progressed. So in all fairness, that could have been it as well. But that was when I began my journey to truly understand the technique. And I was for sure about 22 at this time. And I'm very young and maybe even 21. So I was young. And I asked Tanya, how do you do the figure eight? Because that was the one that I thought was most beautiful. And I did not know how to do it. And Tanya taught it to me. She broke it down. And that was when I began my quest. Again, around this time is when I'm starting my interest in fitness. Another podcast, I will share with you my fitness journey. But a large part of why I wanted to do fitness, again, goes back to my body image issues. It was really kind of combining the two, the fitness and the belly dancing. So I did my master's in the theater arts because every good Middle Eastern girl gets nothing less than a master's degree. And the agreement with my mother was I could pursue the theater arts as long as I got a master's degree and preferably a PhD, which I could still do if I want to do later. I'm not sure yet. But so that was kind of how that ended up working. And you can do belly dancing as long as it's within a fitness setting. Okay. So you see where all this is kind of tying in. And so that was kind of how I started that journey is I started to learn belly dance techniques on my own. So I'm 100% self-taught. First of all, you can't teach soul. You really can't teach soul. So I was very fortunate to have had the opportunity to feel the music and know the music and understand the music very early on from a soulful sense. And so I was very fortunate to have that. But the actual technique, I just kind of paired with my fitness journey. And my first fitness classes, I think I shared with you, I was performing professionally at the with a big cover band and doing a lot of musical theater. So my fitness at that point was more paired with that. But the belly dancing, I decided I'm going to start teaching and learning together. So as I was figuring it out myself, I started to slowly inch teaching other people because I felt like if I can teach the basics, then it's going to help me understand myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. So basically, I started to really just dissect what are the basic movements because clearly it's more than just hip lifts and hip drops and shimmies. Because really the hip hits and the hip those accents were I think what just was so appealing to me. But the vertical figure eights and the horizontal figure eights was my quest. So learning step one, I wanted to learn what the breadth of the variety of movements were. So I began to realize then in my 20s, as I'm really just studying it and just watching and paying attention, that it was your slides, your twists, your horizontal figure eights, and vertical figure eights, or all these basic movements could turn vertically. Slides, twists, figure eights, circles, internal, external, hip lifts, hip drops, undulations, and shimmies. Those movements can also move vertically as well as horizontally. Okay, great. I got that. Next, I needed to understand because I'm really getting into fitness at this point. I'm really interested in muscles and alignment, and I'm really growing as a dancer myself out in musical theater. So now I'm just thinking, I'm putting on my teacher's cap. And so I started to teach, and keep in mind, I was teaching it from a more group fitness method setting. Okay. So I'm not necessarily even coming up, I'm freestyling. As far as dancing goes, I'm freestyling on my own. I never really came up with choreography. So that entered into my next stage. So again, so for me around this time, outside of my youth, now more young woman, it kind of turned into more fitness, sharing my culture, but really dissecting and understanding the technique. I was really interested in the technique. So, fast forward, I'm pregnant with my daughter. And I'm really teaching a lot more and really kind of growing and understanding the method. Now it turned into something more spiritual because now I know I have a baby girl in my belly. And so I was still teaching belly dance classes in the fitness setting, very pregnant with my daughter. And I was just telling you the other day, it was so cool to see my belly rolls at a young age. Um, or so with her in my belly. I'm sorry, when my belly was, I'm doing a belly roll with her in my belly up to the end from each phase. And it physically was so satisfying because the technique that's involved in a belly roll, you really have to pull up and just to pull up with the baby in your belly. That was a workout. That was a great workout. So I highly recommend that, by the way, for sure. So I was belly dancing all through my pregnancy and teaching it. It's so funny because there was no videos back then. I was saying to my daughter, I'm like, I'm so bummed that I didn't have like a phone to show, conveniently how cool that looked. So yeah, so I was teaching it more from that perspective. And once she was born, belly dancing became my way of sharing with my daughter our culture and her beauty, basically everything that I felt I was dealing with, body love, body image issues. And by the way, my mother was 100% so supportive of my telling me I'm beautiful, I'm healthy. And when I talk more about the Mediterranean diet and foods, that's where my mother really showed so many pearls of wisdom. She was so ahead of her time. Just want to make sure I'm clear on that because I was very fortunate. But for me, belly dancing had that type of mood, that spirit, and I wanted to really make sure I was sharing that with my daughter. So that's exactly how that began as I began motherhood, posture, grace, presence, and artistry. So Lily, at that point between birth and really 10 years old, that was what I was focusing on. I started to develop my product, my RaqiSa teaching mat. I'm out of California. My kids were born in San Francisco. Now we're in Massachusetts. And I'm really developing the product, spending a lot of hours really just calling companies to help print it and really come up with the package. So I'm spent a lot of time just diving deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding belly dance techniques. And that's when I decided I should do a belly dance competition. I wanted to do it now, this season of my life, for me, because I miss performing. I wasn't on stage performing anymore. I wasn't, given that opportunity anymore. So I thought this is going to serve a couple of things. It's going to push me back into performance mode because I really, really do miss performing on stage, but it's also going to push my own techniques further. It's going to force me to come up with choreography because in all fairness, I was freestyling it from then on, especially because I was doing so much musical theater. Someone else was choreographing for me. And then when I was working with this big cover band, it was 100% improvisation and freestyling, which I have great techniques on how to be successful with improvisation and dancing or in anything in life, particularly. So that was now the new phase that belly dance took in my life. It was an opportunity for me to come back and to perform. It was also therapy, therapy, because by this time my mother had passed away. My mother had passed away. My daughter was around 2 or 3 years old, probably 3 years old. And really, that whole season, belly dancing between talking to my daughter and sharing with her our culture, talking about her teta, talking about everything, it was really just therapy for me. And some of you can relate. Maybe you've gone through, are a trained dancer yourself, and you can highly relate to that season in your life when it's just kind of therapy, just kind of getting you through day by day. So that's kind of how it transitioned for me with that time. When I started to come up with choreography, I realized how challenging it was. I thought, okay, this is interesting. So I was able to take my theater experience because I love directing. I used to be not just performing, but I actually love directing. So for my thesis for my master's degree, I actually directed a production. I often would add dancing into my production, my kind of performance art style lended to this type of genre that I could layer in some dancing, right? So I kind of saw my choreography as an opportunity to direct myself in a production. So it had this type of element. And I thought it was a little more challenging. I videoed myself a lot. And because I didn't have anyone else to coach me or teach me. So I would just video myself and then watch myself. And that was when I really noticed my posture was dropping a lot. So I highly recommend video yourself, watch yourself. It's tough to see yourself sometimes, but you got to do it. That's how you get better. And so I started really honing in on technique, 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 technique. And again, this is when my bar program came into play. I was developing it. It completely rescued me, saved me, because I was teaching a lot of muscle conditioning classes, a lot of aqua classes, but I needed something that would train my dancer muscles. And I knew exactly which muscles those were. And I could see where I was getting out of alignment and where I was getting sloppy. So the bar program, 100% subscribed to it. It trained me to get better at dance technique and really gave me the confidence to have the muscle to support. So you can see it in your head what you want, but if your body can't perform it and do it, then that's a whole other thing. Or you can be excited and nervous because you haven't performed in a long time, and then your technique goes sloppy. It gets crazy. Just part of the journey. It's a part of the journey, and you need to, if you are in that journey or you're about to journey in that direction, embrace it. Embrace it. And don't think that you're stuck there, that you're going to stink. No, it's a part of your getting better. So when I did my first belly dance competition, it was a great opportunity to network, meet other dancers, and meet other dancers professionally. But it also was a great opportunity for me to show my product. So the first time I did the dance competition, I did not have full makeup, did not have full hair. I really didn't know what the rules were. I didn't understand it. I really was just coming from a fitness and cultural perspective. I didn't even own a belly dance costume. I didn't even own a costume. And do you know the belly dance costumes are very expensive? They're so expensive. So do you know why it costs a lot to hire a professional dancer? It's because it's so expensive to get the costumes, the hair, the makeup. So high respect to those who have invested in professional dancing. So if you want to hire a professional dancer at your event, just saying, it takes a lot to get the hair, the nails, the makeup, the costume, all of it to really showcase. Plus the hours of training for the dance technique, the choreography. It's a lot of work. So that's all I'm saying on that. Off my soapbox. So for sure, that was when I really kind of realized how much was involved. So I did not win that dance competition, but I really wasn't in it to win it. I was in it to just put myself out there. But it did teach me a lot. And for example, my daughter, she was so upset. She's like, Mom, didn't win. Great mom teaching moment. Lily, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't win. It's okay. I needed to do this for me. And it's important for you to see that if I don't win, then here, what am I going to do? Am I going to just sit and wallow? I'm going to go, okay, what did I do? What can I do next time? And that was what I did. Oh, the other thing, by the way, is I absolutely hated my costume. It was beautiful, but it was incredibly uncomfortable. It was very hard to dance in because, again, I'm used to wearing more fitness clothes, things that can open up through my pectoral. I could not get my movements in well, even though I rehearsed with it. And I paid more for my belly dance dress costume than I did for my wedding dress. Okay, first of all, I didn't spend a lot of money on my wedding dress, obviously, but I was surprised. So I maybe just thought, okay, it's nice, nice, high end, but no, that's my biggest piece of advice. You want your costume to feel comfortable. So then I did enter the event again, and I really worked harder on choosing a piece of choreography that I felt a little more comfortable with, and I nailed it. I won. But here's where I especially won. After I got off stage with the second um, event, a fellow dancer looked at me. She said, "You have amazing technique." Win. That was my goal. I really wanted to get better at technique. I wanted to get better at choreography. I really wanted to come into my own. And so that was a part of my journey. Do you know how to belly dance right out of the gate? No. Do you know how many countless hours I had to rehearse? I had to practice. I had to get better. It took hours upon hours and hours. So if you just think you're going to become an instant belly dancer, the answer is no. You're not. You're not. You're not. So that's what I really want to explain. So as I share with you my story from the beginning, yes, I'm lucky, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed to have had it as a part of my culture, as my story from the beginning. So I had a sense of confidence culturally speaking. The music was familiar to me. It was natural. I still cry when I hear Arabic music. It's such a therapeutic, beautiful part of my life, right? And then again, it was very body loving for me. It was a part of my femininity. It was a way of me embracing kind of that balance of who I am, but also who my mother was in my life: intelligent, strong, graceful, feminine. But it allowed me to exercise my theatrical spirit. It allowed me to do the dancing. It was allowed me to bring fitness for you today, hopefully, so that you can enjoy this as an accessible part of your wellness program. It allowed me to be um, a mother that could share her culture and give her daughter a beautiful dance. My daughter is an amazing, amazing dancer. And by the way, she took my belly dance class not that long ago, and it was just a skills and drills class. And she said, Mom, she said, I forget how important basic skills and drills really is to really mastering the method. So please, skills and drills. I have on my YouTube 1 minute practice drills back to back. Do them. It's free. It's great. All right. So it's really, really important for you to practice and to get better because as a part of your own journey, if you're new and if you're already a dancer and you've been there, you got it. That's great. But you understand, you can relate with me with my story, right? Yes. Say yes. So, so really, it had so many different shapes, and I am self-taught as far as the technique goes, but I do continue to watch many, many dancers, and I enjoy seeing other dancers, and I do grow, and I learn by watching them, and I learned by challenging myself to put in more choreography. I am continue to be a student of belly dance, by the way. When I say I'm self-taught, that means I really just dove into the mechanics, but I'm thoroughly watching other dancers. And I'm at that season of my life where I am ready to take on some more challenges. I'm in the perimenopause phase in my life. So now belly dance is going to mean something different for me as I have watched my belly shape change. It's all good. I'm back to that body loving component of belly dance where I'm like, okay, this is different. But I can tell you the more I teach belly dance techniques, it has continued to be so rewarding for my body at all seasons. It's not jarring, it's not high impact. The movements are, quite frankly, functional fitness at its best through music and dance. So, belly dance techniques now in this spirit, in phase of my life, will continue to add to life lessons. It will be more hips. It will be more heart. It will continue to share more. So, with that, as I close and wrap up this rock talk, I want to thank you if you're still listening and watching, first of all, from here on out. What are your thoughts? Did do you resonate? Can you understand where I come from? Are you is it relatable or no? You have a different story. If not, I want to hear your story. I want to hear what you think. I want to know how I can be a part of supporting you in your journey. How can RaqiSa and the Rock the Bar training method continue to support your body? I plan on future proofing my body. I plan on dancing to the end. It may mean something different for me, but the Rock the Bar program is designed to help me future proof my body. It has already given me yielded so many benefits and rewards. So I want to be a part of your journey and explore and experiment. And if you're a professional dancer, ahlan wa sahla, welcome. Come beyond this rock talk with me. Let's talk more. I'm definitely looking for those who have a strong historical background because the history of the Middle Eastern dance, Raqs Sharqi, is highly debated. It's lengthy, so really that will be a fun discussion. But share with me your story, and always remember to bring the spirit of humility, hips, heart, and hummus. Thanks so much for your time and your energy, and have a rock star day today.